So to create your first project or to create a new project, you're going to click on the Create Project button. From here, you'll go through a series of prompts to enter the data to set up your project. You'll enter the project name, any description that you like. Now this part here is purely for you. It will not be used for the tool to map your impact, but you will need a project name that you can remember. And also on this screen, you can add any tags that you like. So it might be a date, or a discipline, a researcher name, and you can choose what language, what version of English language you would like your outputs to come out in before you hit next. So as you go through and set up your project, I'm just going to use one that I've created before to show you how to walk through. So as I said, you would put in the title of your project, any description you want to add if there's any other details, any tags, and I've added a tag here for the funder that this comes from, and choosing the language. On the side panel, it gives you some examples of what it looks like to write a good project name and title and description versus doing a poor example. So we've got that information in there. So if we go next, we now are asked, and this is the best part here where you need to put the most information. You'll be asked what the primary focus or topic of the project is or was. And here you would put in as much detail as you want. There is quite a bit of room to add in that description. So add in that description. We've done that here around what the project aims to do. Again, on the side panel, there is an example of what makes a good or a poor example for a project topic here. On the left-hand side of the screen, it'll walk you through where we're at in the tool. You can't select these options as yet, but you can just walk through. This will be coming soon. Next up, you can enter the field or the discipline that the research belongs to. Now this is optional, you do not have to enter it in, but if you put it in there, it will help the tool to determine where it's going to look mostly for those users that might be interested in the work based on the discipline that you're working in. Next, it asks where your work will be relevant. Will it be relevant locally, regionally, nationally, or internationally? Whenever you choose one of these, say nationally, you then put in the location. Internationally is going to be the whole world, no option to change that, but otherwise you choose where, locally, regionally, nationally, or internationally. Once you've selected that, you're going to hit next, and it's going to ask you if you have any existing collaborations within the project. Again, this is optional. However, if you are going to list something here, it would be someone that you have a definite partnership that is going to be perhaps a user. This is a great space to put someone that you want to show up in your list of users. So if there's someone in particular or a group that you want to show up in that user list, then you would put it here. Otherwise, you can leave it blank. We are into the next piece of information that's asking you to enter, and this is your vision. We've given good examples and poor examples in the panels on the right-hand side, and again, this is optional. So here you would put in what your vision is of the project, and that's going to help the tool to determine what the potential impact is you're looking for, which again will shape and frame the responses that it gives you. Once you've entered that information, we now go into the magic of the tool. Now it's going to give you selected users. It brings up the list of potential users that you might want to select for your project. And as you can see, there is quite a large list of users. So you can go ahead and select up to 8 different groups from here. However, I do warn you, it's best to select only those that you really want to think about using. Try not to just go on a big shopping list here. Remember, you can come back and try different users later. So for now, let's just choose a couple of groups to show how this works. So we might have Indigenous youth organisations and some policymakers. And then we'll have another look at the top. Health workers could be good, or maybe let's go with specialists. Okay, so now once we've selected those groups, it's going to bring up a list of potential outputs and activities based on each of those user groups. And we can go through and select those for each group. So you click on the arrow and it will then give you all of the options for this first group. So the Indigenous group, So we might do some advocacy strategies and a toolkit. And maybe we will have a look what else they have. Some case studies. Let's do that. So we've done 3 for that one. Next, we will go to the next option. So this is for Indigenous youth organisations. So maybe we'll do some youth-friendly resource materials, maybe a social media campaign, and an arts project could be good to do here. The next one that we had selected was the policymakers. So for policymakers, a policy report would be an obvious option. Perhaps we would come up with a position paper, and maybe we could look at some evaluation metrics to assess the effectiveness. And then our final group here were chronic lung disease specialists. So let's do some clinical guidelines and perhaps some professional development sessions. Okay, now it's going to ask and warn you to select more things. So this is an opportunity if you've accidentally hit next and you haven't selected all the things you want, you can hit cancel cancel and go back. Or you could, yes, I've done everything. It will come up every time. You can just say yes if you're happy and then hit continue. Now it's going to go and look at those different options that you have selected. So it's going to bring up the users, it's going to bring up those outputs and activities you've selected, and then it's going to tell you the potential outcomes and the potential impacts against each of those for the whole table. You will need to scroll down to see everything that comes up. Now, the interesting thing here is that you are able to go in and change any of these cells. So you can re-edit it if you want to change the wording slightly, and then you can just save it. If you hit regenerate, you will lose the changes that you've made here if you've made any. So if you're not happy with the responses it's given you, you can hit regenerate and it will bring up new potential outcomes and potential impacts. Or you can go back and choose things again. But I'm happy with these options, so I'm going to hit next. Now what it's going to do is it's going to match indicators and evidence to those particular outcomes and impacts that we have in our table from the previous screen. We can see here that we've now got what we had before, the potential outcomes and potential impacts, but we also have some suggested impact indicators and sources of evidence. Now, if we're happy with this, there's 2 options from here. One is we can get a stakeholder insight report, and that report will tell us about our stakeholders that we've selected and some things we might want to consider when we're working with them. So if we go into our stakeholder insights report, it's those stakeholders we selected, those users, and we will have a look now at what sort of information it gives us. This is very beta, so think about it and use it as an idea. You've got your different groups here. What do they care about? What's their needs and expectations? What do you need to consider when you work with them? So that's what this table does. Now from here, we can generate our report, and that's going to bring together both the stakeholders insight report and our mapped pathway to impact that we've just walked through. Here's what it looks like when we get the output. So it gives you all the different groups and what we selected for each of them. It then gives us our table. It then gives us the stakeholder engagement plan that we clicked on, and we can save and exit, or we can download the results to a Word document so you can fully edit that document. So we'll just save and exit, and there we go. We're back to the main screen.